G'day, mate. What's your name?
Hello, I am Anthony Locascio. Funny boy extraordinaire.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Crowdworkcast. My name's Andrew Barnett. Thank you so much for joining me. My episode today, I sat down and had a chat with Anthony Locascio. Now, this was actually a really interesting chat because I had no idea how Anthony had sort of started in comedy. He was one of those guys, and you'll hear me say it on the pod, is he was just all of a sudden there. He was doing solo shows at the Comedy Store, and I had no idea where he'd come from. His story is absolutely amazing, the way he started comedy to where he's at now. Really, really funny chat, really good chat. Interesting dude. Now, if you do want to go see him, good news is he is on tour. He's at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival from the 12th to the 22nd of April. His show is called Heart of Darkness, and it'll be at the Belgian Beer Cafe, so go check him out if you're in Melbourne. If you're in Sydney, he is doing the Sydney Comedy Festival May 3 to 7 at the Factory Theatre, and Perth, he's heading over there May 12 to 13. Have a look, anthony.locash on Instagram is where you can find him and find out everything about him. As always, I'm Andrew Barnett Comedy. Please do give me a follow. Come see me. I'll be doing the Brisbane Comedy Festival on May 6 at the Underground Theatre and Sydney Comedy Festival May 20 and 21 at the Enmore Comedy Club. There are tickets. If you go to my Instagram, there's a link tree there with links to tickets to everything I'm doing. So please give us a follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But for now, just enjoy my chat with Anthony Locascio. Funny, so that's what you do? Funny boy extraordinary?
Funny boy, yeah. I mean, that's what all of my friends tell me. You know, they're like, hey, the funny boy, yeah? And I'm like, yeah. Can I just get a McFlurry, please? That's how I'm answering all the time.
Funny boy extraordinaire. So
Yeah.
your mates, is that they're working at Macca's, or they are they're buying?
No,
doing
it's
the Macca's
because we're a bit older now. They're not working at Macca's so much as instructing the people that are working at Macca's on the end of our nights out to say, "Hey, get this guy to tell you a joke because he reckons he does comedy."
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You get those mates.
yeah. Because my by I don't know if you're like this, but by virtue of me being a comedian doing comedy, all of my friends are funnier than me now. You know?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Most of my mates probably are in a lot of ways, but none of them will get up on stage and do it.
Of course not.
They're all when they've got a bit of Dutch courage and whatever. So how long have you been doing comedy?
In May it'll be 6 years.
6 years.
Yes.
Where the hell did you come from? Because I remember. I remember doing the Comedy Store. Must have been. It's a bunch of years ago now. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And you were doing doing a solo show at the Comedy Store, and I was like, who's this guy? And someone said to me, he's new, but he's selling out the Comedy Store. I was like, how does that happen?
Yeah, I don't know, and it hasn't happened since, so I don't know how. No, I had a regular douchebag corporate job. I was in insolvency accounting, and I did a law degree, which I got kicked out of 4 years into the 5 years of doing it.
Oh, man, if you're going to get kicked out early.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they say. No, 4 years into the 5 years, they discovered that I was running this kind of racket of like swapping papers and just colluding, and just, me and a mate got caught handing in virtually the same paper for something 4 years in. I shouldn't have been doing law. There's no way that I should have finished, but
that sounds like something that, is not surprising for a lawyer.
Yeah, right. If anything,
you know what? Rort the system, there's plenty of lawyers out there like that.
That's right. I'm testing different kinds of lawyer credentials here. But I also think that the fact that I got away with it for 4 years is an indictment of the university system as a whole as well. But that's not what we're talking about.
No, put a pin in that. We're coming back to that.
Okay.
I'm interested in that.
I always wanted to do comedy, and I guess I have like first generation Australian parents. They sent me to a good school, and they were like, doctor, lawyer, go for it. And the whole time I guess this is it. This is the path. But then I guess I just failed at so many other things that I thought I have no reason to not try the thing that I've always actually wanted to do. Gave it a crack. And I used to resent this, but I'm kind of coming around to it. I would just harass anybody in my network to come and watch my shows from the beginning. I surf the Dunning-Kruger scale the longer I go on in comedy, whereby when I first started, I thought I was fucking awesome. And the longer I go on, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm terrible. But at the start, you're like, no. Everybody needs to see this. So I literally didn't charge people, not for the Comedy Store one. By the time I did the Comedy Store one, I was charging money. But 5 months into comedy, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. I've got the special. This is gonna launch me. Yeah.
Where does that come? Where does that confidence come from? Because I'm still like, I'm 13 years in now, and I don't think I've got that confidence.
It wasn't confidence. It was sheer unbridled arrogance, coupled with just cluelessness. I had no idea what I had no idea about. So I did this show. I was 5 months into comedy, but I'd written the hour, what I thought was the hour, before I even did my first open mic, before I even did a set. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be it.
So you do the Comedy Store how far in?
The solo?
Yeah.
I did it end of 2019, so 2.5 years in.
So how does that even, like, how do you even...
So it was a trickle down effect, because of that first show, I thought, all right, I got to get a big crowd here, because if it's a shitty small crowd, it's not gonna. I wanted to film it, so it's not gonna look good if it's a small crowd. So I rented out a 400-seater theater, and I invited everybody in my network. I gave them free tickets, and I said, take 3 tickets and bring 2 people that I don't know.
So how far into comedy is this?
This is 5 months.
5 months into comedy.
5 months into comedy.
Rent a theater.
400 people. I had a couple of people open for me. Elliot Rivetti was one of them.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And the show, drum roll, sucked. But I think okay, so of the 400 people, I think enough people there kind of understood, all right, this guy's very new to this, and this is something that he's clearly really, really going after. I'll stick around for this journey. And so the following year, we did the same thing, but we charged tickets and we did Giant Dwarf. So it was 3.
So where was the first theater?
First theater is called Monkey Bar in Darling Quarter. I think it still exists. Like it's primarily used for children's shows, but it's a state-of-the-art theater. It's like, it looks almost identical to some of the ones we do in like Wyong for the comedy festival, where you're just like in the middle of a shithole, but then it's not that Wyong's a shithole. I should put that out.
No, yeah. So you're in a small town where you go, oh, okay, this is, there's a shut down milk bar, and then you go and there's this beautiful new theater.
Exactly.
That the council's had a grant to
build. It looks identical to one of those. This theater.
Wow.
It was great.
So how much does this cost you? Like how?
Somehow. To rent the theater cost me about $1,200.
Wow.
Yep, they did no ticket split. They did no, because most of the things that they do there are for, like, children's shows. So we got a really good deal on it. I obviously lost money, but I didn't.
But that wasn't the plan.
That wasn't exactly.
Yeah.
I was still a corporate stooge at the time. I was doing open mics, and I was getting changed out of my suit into like this kind of stuff in my car before doing Sweeney's and stuff like that at this time. And so I did it. And yeah, enough people came back the next year, and then the next year, and the next year, so that I could sell at the Comedy Store in 2019 and then 2020. But there's an asterisk on that, because it was only half full, because it was the COVID year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I was still working in insolvency for about 1.5 years while doing comedy and this kind of stuff, and then maybe about 6 months after putting out some of the video, because maybe the show also went for 80 minutes. I didn't do an hour. I did 80 minutes.
So, sorry, 5 months into comedy, you do 80 minutes that you tape.
Yeah.
In a 400-seat theater.
Yeah.
This is insane. This is
unbelievable.
Many people have said the same thing to me. Like,
That's
you're a fucking psycho.
yeah, it's fascinating though, because you can always find a reason not to do stuff. And I suppose that proves that, okay, if you just decide you can do it, you can do some things.
Well, a couple
whether
of
they're a good idea or not.
yeah, yeah. A couple of months before, I was a big bong head at this point. I was very addicted to smoking weed, and I hit the bongs too hard on one of the nights, and I had a proper, you are going to embarrass yourself in front of everybody you know and everybody they know, and you are not going to be able to face anybody ever again. This is not going to work out for you, and it's going to be a nightmare. Proper anxiety attack. Like,
Wow.
yeah.
This is because that would be like, I still to this day, I feel weird inviting people from my network to come see my shows, which is something I shouldn't, but I do. But yeah, this is the opposite. So now,
But that's leveled out for me now. It's the same thing. It's Dunning-Kruger surfing. Because now people are like, oh, when's your next show? And I'm like, May Sydney Comedy Festival, when I'm in a big room and I can't see you because I don't want to know you're there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But back then I was like, yeah, you guys got to come and check this thing out. I didn't want to perform to people that I didn't know at that point. I felt too scared to be.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm the total opposite. I love performing to people I don't know.
Now I do. Now I'm the same.
Yeah.
Now I'm totally just strangers. It's much better.
Because I think when my first set, I was a bit more conventional. I just did an open, like it was.
Well, sorry, that wasn't my first set.
It's 5.5 months in. Yeah.
But go on, sorry.
But for my first part doing comedy, for the first while, I think only two of my mates knew that I was even doing it. It wouldn't even have occurred to me to. So where does that come from? That like, is that a corporate thing where you're like, okay, well, you want to do this, so what do? You rent a theater. Where did the math come from that made you think that was what you needed to do?
That might be an element of it, but I think more to the point, it's a WOG thing, if I can put it like that, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to even broach the idea of me actually pursuing comedy to my parents or my friends or whatever without showing a business model. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think I would have been able to face it. And in fact, I had been right. I was still at uni, and I saw this Trevor Noah special, and this was when I was about 21. And inexplicably, I was getting asked to do people's 21st speeches around this time, who I wasn't even that close friends with, because I was killing it with doing the speeches. Everybody was sitting with paper and nervous. I didn't come with a paper. I would think of 3 things to say on the card, ride over. I'd have 2 drinks, and I would just go for it. And so I knew that I had some kind of chops.
Yeah.
And I really liked writing jokes and coming up with stories. And I saw this Trevor Noah special, and I thought, I see no reason why I can't do that. Not because Trevor Noah sucks, just because, like, I don't know, I found the storytelling elements of his show something that I could really latch onto. But I never thought I'm going to do it until the idea one day occurred to me. I woke up, I was hungover, and I had the idea to just rent a theater, film it. I had a mate, my mate filmed it for free as well. That's another cost that I was able to cut. My mate's in that industry. He was able to film it for free.
So how many cameras were we talking? What sort of a setup?
Two camera setup.
2 camera setup.
Yeah. He brought it himself and didn't refuse to charge me. For 3 years he filmed my specials and refused to charge me.
This is all online, this
is
one?
all now now there's 2 clips online from that show. You can see it, and if you see it, you'll it's so raw. But one of them I can't take down because there's like almost 2 million views on it.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that bit?
It's a bit where I compare my Italian grandfather and my great grandfather, and it just, for whatever reason, it's a hit in Europe. They absolutely, somebody put it on Reddit and it exploded, and it gave me a little bit of a boost even here. And so then I just thought, okay, well, if I can do a show every year, if I can do an hour and I can get one or two videos out of it that may resonate with somebody somewhere, then I can build an audience, and then I can actually start doing this properly.
This is that's funny. This is a change in, I think, in approach, that because when I started, most of the comedians I hung around were the model was, okay, you start as an open micer, but there weren't really, when I first started, there weren't any pure sign up. There were no sign up rooms. There was no pure real open mics. There'd be a night like the Mic in Hand, or there was a few competitions around, but where there'd be maybe one or two new people on a lineup that went from new through to various levels of experience, right through to a headliner, and that was it. So the idea was, okay, so you work your way through that to get to the point where hopefully you build you build your audience as a headliner through the clubs. Whereas now it's very much, it seems to be quite different. Like people going in with that, okay, well, no, I'll rent a theatre, I'll do my own thing and build my audience. Like it's sort of a different model. So where did you? So had you seen that model anywhere?
I just understood the power of social media at the time, so I thought that could be really, really helpful. Neil Kolhatkar was knocking it out of the park 5-6 years before I even conceived of this idea. So I knew that there were, and he was selling out Enmore Theatre at that point. So I understood that there was that chance, but I'm like not very good with the social media stuff. I'm getting better now. I would just chuck it up there, and like I didn't know how to edit or anything like that, which I think ultimately got me. Because of that kind of philosophy about the dues paying and the way you should do it at the time, people hated me, as in within the scene, hated me after I did this hour at the start.
Really?
Yeah, man. They really, and I mean, you get it. You can understand. I would.
I was baffled when I first came across because I hadn't heard of you at all. Hadn't come across. Usually, by the time someone's, because I just figured you were from interstate somewhere, or there was something else. And no, he's Sydney, and I'm like, how has this happened? Because usually there is, like, for someone to get to the point where they're selling out the Comedy Store or doing their own show, doing 80 minutes 5.5 months in, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. But usually there's that, you've seen them round, because it takes time to build all that stuff and to build the audience. And that was why I was just sort of fascinated. I'm like, how has he done this? Because it's every comic's sort of problem to solve, is how you get to the point where you can sell some tickets.
Yeah, I think so too. And I was very lucky at the start with having people actually want to come. Unfortunately, it bit me on the ass last year when I did my first interstate shows, because I had this real like sense that I could get away with anything. I could do solo shows, and these people love what I'm saying because they've seen me online and they like me, they follow my social media or whatever, so I can get away with some pretty half-baked shit that I haven't really tested that much, and they'll just like it. And the stuff that I have tested, like so the hour that I ran last year, when I went to Adelaide for the first stop, maybe half of it had been tested.
Really?
And the rest was, I know it's funny. I've been doing this long enough. I know it's funny. And I had a bunch of AV stuff that you can use as a cheat, where the changing of the slide is your punchline as opposed to something you've said. And I copped it in the ass. You learn very quickly that that's not how it works. And really? I had the worst time last year in Adelaide. Adelaide last year almost made me totally quit comedy.
Really?
Yes.
I suppose, to be honest, everyone has a point where you're like, okay, no, am I going to quit, or am I going to? And that's, I think, that's when you come out the other side of that, and I'm big at the moment on, you've got to enjoy the process, because you can't always control the outcomes. So if you don't enjoy the actual grind of doing this, then it's not going to be a long time you'll do it, because at a certain point that's the only consistent thing in it is the grind. You got to keep writing, you got to keep performing. You're gonna do weird gigs, you're gonna do some shit gigs. Sometimes you're gonna bomb, all that stuff. So the fact that you didn't quit's probably a good sign.
Yeah. Well, I had already signed up for Melbourne and Sydney and Perth, so I couldn't. At that point, it was just a financial decision, I think. But you're right, and I did also learn throughout the doing the 1 hour that I changed so much. But you know, you're doing the one show 25, 30 times in a row. You learn that grind.
Yes.
And this year, I just came back from Adelaide 2 days ago. Had the time of my life this year. Sold about half the tickets that I did last year. But I had the best time. I went in determined to enjoy the process. If they don't laugh, it's okay. It's okay. If I have a bad show, it's okay. And I didn't have a bad show. I felt good the whole time because I felt like a comedian rather than a person who is desperate for everybody to know that they're doing comedy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said this thing to Steph Broadbridge at last year in Melbourne. I said at the end of the Melbourne Comedy Festival, I said to her, for the first time ever, I am 100% keen to be a good comedian rather than to have people think that I'm a good comedian.
That's a really that's an inside baseball distinction, but that's an important distinction to have.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing is like you can, I think sometimes people come into it thinking they want to be famous or they want the money or whatever, but all that I don't know. I don't know. I think it's time growing up and knowing, like, you know, just as you get older, you realize, okay, that if you're not doing something, it doesn't matter how much money you've got if you're not doing something that's fulfilling, and the fulfilling part's not well, I don't know. I can only speak for me. For me, the fulfilling part's not necessarily when you get the money for the gig. It's how the gig went and
100%.
problem solving it and trying to work it out. Like I'm doing this weekend coming up, which by the time this comes out, will have gone. The gig I'm looking forward to this weekend is I'm going down to host a clean comedy spectacular. It's a bit an all ages show down at Canberra Comedy Festival.
Okay.
Same night, I'm also hosting like the late night.
Who's on the clean show?
I have no idea.
Oh, you don't know?
I haven't had the thing sent through yet.
Okay.
But looking at it, I'm like, okay, that's one I'm a little more excited for because I know what the late night one will be. I know that I can do it because I was just at the Comedy Store last week doing that, doing the late night thing. So I know that that's fresh in my mind that I can do it. The one I'm excited for, okay, this is a different challenge, this clean. Let's have a look at the stuff I've been doing now, see, one, how clean it is, and two, if it is all ages, how do I make this accessible to the broadest range of an audience? Or if I'm not doing that, how do I keep the youngest members of the audience interested while I'm telling the clean version of these jokes to the rest of the audience?
That's a hard thing because it's one thing to have jokes that don't have swear words or, dick references in them, but it's quite another thing to have something that's going to engage younger people. So I've done a few soccer benefits, which is the worst. I think the last time we chatted, I was going to do one that weekend, and it was a top to bottom nightmare, just a tornado of shit. But I was expecting it, so that's fine. But I did a different one where the adults were into me, but there was tables of under 16s and kids, and I guess they just don't have the I do a lot of stuff that's like I'm not a particularly dirty comic either, but I do a lot of stuff that I guess is very kind of young adult experience.
Yeah.
And I don't think that kids can relate to that at all. Like, I used to coach basketball and soccer teenagers, and I'm trying to make them laugh all the time. They're like, "You're a comedian, really?" So yeah, it's very hard. But like you say, that kind of problem solving and that kind of, all right, this isn't what I normally do. That's exciting.
Yeah, because I'm not going to walk away from it. I'll learn something, and I don't think I'll walk away from it being a worse comedian.
Okay.
So you've like that sort of stuff still excites me. It's interesting you were saying with the soccer gigs you do, that it's usually a tornado of shit. You will get to a point though, if you just keep doing them, this is the exciting thing about comedy, is you start to work them out.
Right.
And you start to work, okay, no. And that debilitating sort of fear when it starts to go a bit sideways goes away, because you're like, oh no, I've been here before. I've done this before.
Okay. Okay. I hear your point, but I raise you driving to Wollongong to do a soccer benefit, getting called up 45 minutes before your call time.
Yep.
Sun's still up. MC doesn't even say your surname, and you just get chucked into the middle of it.
Surname?
No surname,
mate.
We've got a comedian, Anthony.
They said comedian.
They did say comedian.
I've done these gigs. I've done those sort of things where they've brought me up. Andrew's going to talk a bit now.
Okay.
They don't even know what you're talking about or why you're there.
Yeah.
It's you like, mate. If you want to talk shit gigs, I've done them all, but
you have.
It is, but that's the thing, is like, you don't walk away from those experiences if you can work out from that handicap how to get them. Then that's what you take away from that gig.
Yeah, okay.
That, and hopefully some cash.
Yeah, the cash helps.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, that's part of the fun of it. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of there's a few guys I really like to watch when I work with them, and one of them's a guy I've had on here, Mickey D. Do you know Mickey?
Of course, just came back from Adelaide.
Yeah, Mickey's got that get up anywhere. Like, you could throw Mickey in any room, but it's because he's done so many rough gigs over the years and he's just not scared of any crowd.
I was technically on his late night show in Gluttony a couple of nights ago. Fat Cave. Technically, I was on. I wasn't on the lineup, but I think I can say this. So it's about 12:30 Saturday night, or Sunday morning at this point. 12:30, and I'm outside having a drink with comedians Tom Whitcomb and Daniel Muggleton and a few others, and Daniel's going to go on last, so he's waiting, and I think Mickey wanted to get one more act because him and Thomas Green are on stage, and I think they wanted to elongate the show a little bit, so he had called up Rory Lowe to come and do a spot. And Rory is a bit of a nighthawk, bit of a prowler. Rory has rolled in to Gluttony, to the tent where the show is, on one of those Adelaide automated scooters. He has scooted all the way up on stage. 3 security guards are chasing him. They've been told, no, he's on the show, you got to go away, because you're not allowed to ride those things in the park.
Yep.
He's ridden it onto stage. He's crashed onto the stage, and I've looked around, and by the time I've turned back to stage, he's totally naked, and he's riding Mickey. Like, Mickey's head is popping out of his crotch. I got photos I'll show you later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so, at that point, Muggleton's turned to me and Whitcomb and said, all right, well, this is a bit of a loose show now, so we got to do something fun with it. And for the listeners that may not know, Daniel's trademark is that he wears his red tracksuit.
Yes.
Right? So he's given me and Tom a red tracksuit each, and we're his bouncers. So we've come on stage with him.
Sorry, Muggleton's rocking around with two emergency tracksuits.
Of course, you'd have to. You just never know. You never know.
Oh, that's the most Muggleton thing I've ever
Absolutely.
heard. That's so good.
So we're on stage, just on the corner, just bouncering him, and Mickey's gone in the crowd, and he's like, a spotlight's on Mickey, and he's doing the you know, when I think it happens at Jimmy Fallon and the late night show, sometimes they'll have a plant in the audience and I'll do a little skit with somebody in the audience. It was kind of like that, and it was just wild, and Mickey's just funny no matter what the context is.
That 100%. He's, and it's that sense of adventure, but because he's
been there. Yeah,
he's done it, and he's done it for a long time. That's sort of the fun of it. But that's where you will get that point with the soccer clubs where you'll be able to work it out. Like, it's a long game. You just gotta, and that's sort of one of the more sad. When you get to that point where you can rock into what should be a shit gig and still work it out, like that's a goal.
It is a long game, huh? This whole thing, it's a
See, this is the thing.
It's a slog.
Did you have any concept 5 months in when you thought, I'm filming the spec? What was the career plan as opposed to what it is now? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I honestly, and I don't think I've ever actually said this out loud, but the plan was to totally bypass the grind of it and just go straight to like, you know, theaters always.
Yeah.
Which is obviously retarded. And now, I mean, you get addicted to it. You just fall in love with every part of it. You fall in love with walking through the town in Adelaide and bumping into a comedian that you've seen on lineup. Like, you don't know each other, but you follow each other on Instagram because you've seen each other on lineups, and you go, hey, you're such and such, let's get a beer and just talk about comedy for half an hour between your show and his show, and you just have a great time. To writing a really, really good joke that you love and then being terrified that it's not going to work, and then almost not testing it at a show because there's a Luke Heggie or an Andrew Barnett or somebody in the sitting at the back, and you don't want to look like a fucking idiot to it. I love that part of it too. I'm glad that I stuck around, because there's the beauty in comedy is not like everybody loving you. The beauty in it is just the craft of it, you know?
I know 100% what you mean. Like, it's you don't realize when you start that the rewarding bit is that.
Yeah.
Is that the fact that it's so difficult to get to force yourself to write new stuff and get up, and that feeling of, oh, fuck, is this going to work? But then the reward when it does, or when you get something to... I had a new bit that I've been working on, and I finally just this weekend at the store, the last show of the night of the four of them, I feel like I actually clicked it. All the different parts of it clicked.
Did you try it every night?
Yep. And I walked off stage and I was like, and I'd done it like before that. Like, it wasn't brand new that week, and I'd done it before then. But it was always one of those ones. I'm like, there's something here. I need to get this to click in, and it's different, messing with the order and messing with the wording. Once you get down to the fine point wording of your beats, and so then walked off stage Saturday night and went, okay, that bit I think works now. And that was of all the. We had great shows all weekend. It was a great lineup, but that was the most satisfying part of the weekend in a lot of ways.
But that's a private moment, right? Where you have that realization that the bit works now, right? It's sure, the moment where you drop the individual tags on stage and you're getting laughs, yeah, dopamine's hitting you. But that realization that, oh, okay, I've actually worked hard on this, and it's all come together now. Like I've molded my little sandcastle here. That's a private moment. And that's what I have learned to love about it. Whereas before, I mean, you know, you're a sports guy as much as I'm a sports guy. You come up thinking that, you know, life is glory moments, and that it's gonna, you know, you're scoring the winning try, and then that's gonna be it, and that you're gonna do your show in front of God knows how many people, and then you're gonna walk off, and it's gonna be like, yep, self-actualized. And that's bullshit. That's not how it works.
No.
Eminem was wrong. You don't have one shot and one opportunity.
Ooh.
You've got so many opportunities, and if you fuck one up, you're fine.
You got a lot of balls coming on this podcast and shit talking Eminem, because
hey,
no, you're not wrong though.
Eminem's my guy, but he's like what he said didn't count for us. You know what I mean? No matter how poorly you do, it's pretty inconsequential. In front of whomever, it's pretty inconsequential. And no matter how well you do on any given thing in front of any given person, chances of you just like no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The thing is that you just got to do it for a really, really long time and stick around the barbershop and get a haircut eventually. So that's the change of mentality that I've had recently. And it feels so good to just go into a gig and not think if a joke doesn't work, I should kill myself.
Yeah, you come back and just rewrite it, try it
rewrite
again.
it. It's
Different.
fine.
You never know why. Like, well, you do know why eventually, but some jokes take a bit of working out,
And they're generally better.
yeah,
The ones that you like struggle with, that you mold over a little while, they're the best ones. But to your point about that comedy store show that I think I can remember saying hi to you afterwards. I don't think we'd met yet, and weirdly, I think that was when I started kind of coming down on the Dunning-Kruger thing, because that was a really good show. And I look back at the footage from that night and I think, fuck, have I regressed? Was that was the best that I had ever been at that point. And I thought, oh, not only was that lackluster, but the fact that I'm able to sell out the Comedy Store, it wasn't like a nice congratulatory to myself moment to sell out the Comedy Store. My thought was, oh, if I've done this, it can't be that hard. It can't be that important if I've done this.
Jeez, that's no, because that is a thing. Like to be able to sell out the Comedy Store is a big deal. And that I think, but that knowing to appreciate achievements is probably another thing that comes with experience too. Is to be able to take a moment.
I hope so.
Man, I supported that's a year and a half ago. I supported Marty Sheargold.
Mm-hmm.
Did it a few times, but I remember we were in the Enmore, and he'd sold out the Enmore, a couple of shows, and I just said to him before the show, I said, how long do you want me to do? And I'd been told it, like, time, and he goes, no, take a bit more time than that. He goes, mate, how often do you get to perform at a sold out Enmore? He goes, you got to enjoy these moments, mate. And
how much did you do?
I think I did about 11
Okay.
minutes. So
Okay.
it's not long. Like he said, do like, because I thought I was, sort of 7 minutes was what that. And he goes, no, do at least 10 to 15.
10 minutes I think is enough time to leave an impact,
Yeah, but it was that thing where he's like, you got to enjoy these moments, mate. How often you don't know the next time you'll be walking on stage at a sold out Enmore, so enjoy it. And I was like, that it was the nicest. Like, one, it was incredibly generous from him to allow, because it's his show, to allow me a bit of time. But two, it was that it changed my approach to going out there, where I wasn't like, okay, I need to just get through this, not stuff it up too much. For Marty, it went out. He was like, part of the thing for him was that he got to give that to a younger comedian or a less established comedian. You get to go out and do this in front of this crowd that I've sold out. Like, it was a nice moment where it was almost like he was sharing the experience with me.
Yeah.
Which is, it was lovely. And that's
And not a lot of guys do that.
No, well, I find the more secure a comedian is in where they are and what they've achieved, and I find they're nicer. Like, it's funny how nice and helpful comedians will be with you. Like, if
if a comedian's at a point where you could steal their lunch, then they're gonna be an asshole to you. But if you can't steal their lunch because you can't reach their table, then I'll this is a little bit of a crass analogy, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But I totally agree with you. This is something that I found out really, really early. The people that have, because when you're an open micer, everybody seems like they're a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to discern who the actual kind of people that have been doing it and people that are securing what they've done are. And the way I figured out how to do that is because the people that have made it or that have accomplished stuff, they'll be nice to you. They'll help you out. They'll give you the time of day.
And it does feel nice too when you get someone like that who you respect, like a comedian you respect, who treats you like a comedian. They're those nice moments too, where all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, how's your, like, and they're interested in you and your process and how it's going for you, and they're chatting to you as colleagues. There's the obvious there's always an obvious difference, but that acceptance that we're all just comedians, that's a nice feeling too when you first get that. When did you first get that, do you reckon?
Yeah, the first time I did the Comedy Store, I was again way too. I think I was less than a year in. I did it after Raw. I did Raw and no, not at.
This is the craziest story ever. You did Raw and then did your solo show.
No, not the solo show. As in the first run, the first being on the lineup. I did Raw, and then I made it to the state final, and then a couple of people that had been on the panel, the judges said, "Oh, the Comedy Store booker really liked you, so you should send them an email." So I did, and they gave me a spot. And on the first night, I did my, best 7 minutes, and it went great. And I thought, okay, I got this. And then the next night, I went up and I did some new stuff, and absolutely tanked it. Absolutely died on my ass. And the MC that weekend was Sean Woodland.
Yep.
The headliner was Aldel Bennett, and kind of like the semi headliner was Greg Sullivan.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, come and have a drink. And they all kind of said, what the fuck are you doing? This is the store. You do your best. Like,
yeah.
And
this is a showcase room.
Yep, exactly. And obviously they were 100% right. But I just really liked that they were happy to chat to me about that. They were happy to kind of put their
the fact
arm
that they
around.
Cared enough to go, hey man, you can do this. Just do the stuff you did the first night.
Yeah.
Stick to doing the good stuff.
Exactly.
This is that room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that felt really, really nice.
Which is a lesson you sort of, you got to learn. And if there's someone willing to help you with it, then that is a nice, And that's a good bunch of guys too, like in terms of solid, very good acts. So, and you were smart enough to listen to them is the...
Yeah, because I do know a few people that would have, that 100% would have told them to shove it up their ass. And,
oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't need to tell you this, but we meet some pretty wacky characters in comedy, and a lot of very prideful people, and that's a toxic combination sometimes. People's biggest enemy is the reflection.
Yeah, it can, and it certainly can be. There's so many too, like I've seen over the years, guys that just get in their own way, and you're like, oh man, you're super talented, but just you're making this difficult for yourself and for everyone else to work with you. That's, I think, another thing that's underrated is just like there's that many comics who are good enough to be on any given show that you've got to be. Because it is such a small industry, and to be an arsehole, you need to be super good.
And even I guess the ratios, like you could be, somebody could be 90, somebody could be 80% as funny as somebody else, but if they are 100% professional and the other person's only 50% professional, why would you not book the first guy?
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. Like, I remember a bit of advice I got real early on was from a guy who was headlining and whatever, and he said, "Oh, look," he goes, "just be easy to work with." I said, "Oh, okay, yeah." He goes, "No." He goes, "Don't underestimate how important that is," because he goes, "When I'm touring, if I'm looking to get a support," he goes, "it's important that they're funny." But as long as they're funny enough, then it's important that I can spend time with them, because like 23 hours of the day, I'm not on stage. I'm with them.
True.
You're like, oh, yeah, okay.
And that guy was Bill Cosby.
Yeah. And, I haven't caught up with him in a while.
No.
So I don't know where he's at.
He's been pretty busy.
Yeah. So what's the plan from here? What's the, where like, you're obviously into your sport, that sort of stuff. Is there a plan for that, or are you just on this stand up thing and seeing how good you can get?
Yeah, to be honest, the sport thing was it is a thing that I'm obsessed with soccer, whether I like it or not. So it's going to be something that's in my window. But stand up's it's the be all and end all. And I came back from Adelaide, and I'm angry that there's time between now and me going to Melbourne, because I've written, for the first time in my life, I've written a show that I like. So I just want to do it all the time, and I love being in a different city doing a show that I wrote in my bedroom and that I've tested in like pubs that I used to get drunk at when I was 19 around the corner from my house, and then I'm just in different cities, and then during the day I'm having lunch with this guy from across the country who used to be in the army, that's doing comedy now, that I never would have met if I hadn't jumped into this wacky world. I love that. So I'm trying to, as hard as I can, to just do that as much and as often as possible.
Nice. So with the soccer, the obsession, are you, because I'm realizing more and more that there's, like, I love my sport, and I've worked in, obviously worked at Fox Sports. I do stuff at SEN Radio now. One of the things I find is there's people that love sport, and then there's people that get super nerdy about it. Are you nerdy, or are you? Because I'm pretty much a vibe guy.
Okay.
Like I like to. I'm not the data and the stats guy. I'll have a thought about something, but it's not. I'm not the guy who remembers people's bowling figures from 10 years ago. Whereas there are those guys who just love being right about things. Are you the nerdy side, or are you the more vibe side?
I think I'm in the middle, but
That means you're a nerd.
Yeah.
You're
But
a
I'm
nerd.
not I'm not a stats guy. I'm more of an intense kind of historian. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I will remember who was good and who was the kind of key members of a team that I didn't even support in 2002. I don't know how many goals they scored. I don't know what the stats were, but I know what they won, and I know who was important, and I know why they were important. And I'm in a weird sense, I'm not a competitive person. Not for, how some people are just kind of across the board competitive, no matter what they do. Ping pong, haven't played for 6 years, but I will chomp your neck off. I don't care if it's something that I don't put any kind of focus or care into. Like I think you are inherently competitive for comedy. I think everybody kind of is, but I'd play soccer on the weekends and people would get into big fights, and I'd go, why are you doing this? I don't understand. So I wouldn't be that way for football opinions. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I don't get fanatic. I have a team that I support, but I don't get fanatic about it.
Who's your team?
Well, Juventus is my team. It's the Italian team.
Yep.
I used to be into Chelsea, but they're kind of morally very deplorable. So I couldn't sustain the following of them. So I enjoy watching the Premier League as a neutral and just following storylines that I enjoy and teams and players that are interesting to me. And so I have this podcast that's called the Mr. Sitter podcast.
Mr. Sitter?
Mr. Sitter. Do you get that?
Mr. Sitter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As in like
Missed
an open goal. Yeah, exactly. But it's Mr. Sitter as in like I'm Mr. Sitter.
Yeah.
A lot of people are very confused by that, which is
Well, it's good to have a podcast with a confusing title.
I think
it makes
so.
it easy to find.
I think so too. I think so too. That's kind of my shtick. And I think what I bring to the table, you got to say, why would anybody listen to this? Why would anybody be interested in this at all? I'm not an ex-player. I'm not a journalist or anything like that. I'm the comedian that knows a lot about football. So I try and make it as kind of, I won't say funny, because often that's totally subjective, but I try and make it weird. I try and double down on certain, like, don't you find that this player looks like Maggie Gyllenhaal, and let's find all the players that look like cast members from the Dark Knight movie.
Nice.
Things like that.
Yeah. So the sillier,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's that point of difference.
Yeah.
Because there are a million like different sports podcasts and that sort of stuff.
And why would you listen to me? Why would you listen to Anthony Locascio over somebody that's been in the game? Although, having said that, I did piss a lot of people off with some opinions that I made during the World Cup to the point where an A-League player that I know told me over private message that my opinion upset a lot of the people within the game and that I should be careful what I say.
This is what I love about. So, like, you can say what you want about rugby league players and AFL players and the thug tag or whatever that goes. No one is scarier than football fans. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would be less scared of a rugby league fan than I am of a football fan. They get crazy.
They get crazy. I was putting videos on TikTok, and TikTok, just as a baseline, is just a cesspool of, I don't know what it is about that play. You're not on TikTok, I assume.
I am on TikTok, but I don't look at it.
Yeah,
I've posted, I think, 4 or 5 stand-up clips, and I occasionally remember to put one up there.
That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. I'm in now. I was like you a little while ago, but now I'm in. I went live the other day.
Oh no.
Yes. Hang my head in shame.
That's all the best thoughts come out when you're live.
Totally. But yeah, you put anything on there and people, I don't know what it is about the platform, but people are just mean. They will write whatever they can think of in the comments. Almost it's like being competitive meanness. They want to see who can hit you with the worst zinger. And that combined with football fans, like you put an opinion up about somebody's team and it's like you've gone into their living room and kicked their dog. That's how upset they get about it. It's rabid.
It's that next level craziness. I don't get it. I grew up in like one of the only towns in the world, I think, where we couldn't play soccer.
Really?
Like, it just wasn't an option. And so I'll enjoy watching a game, but I'm not obsessed with it at all. Like, I'll watch anything though. I'm the guy that walks past, a park where there's
you just like grass.
Someone playing cricket. I'll sit down and watch and see what the ball's doing.
Really?
What I mean? Yeah. I'll watch anything, but yeah, just never really got it. And that level of craziness that some fans draw out of football just baffles me, and I've never understood it. I don't think I ever will, but man, well, just don't get yourself killed.
I got punched in the face on stage one time,
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never told you this.
No, what happened?
Yeah. So I was doing a gig, and I'll do the quick version of the story, but it was a gig where you do Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. It was in King's Cross a few years ago, and on the Friday night there was this group of people that were in post-work drinks, and that was the whole audience. And there was this one woman who was clearly the ringleader of all of them, and she was heckling every act. She was, as in, non-stop the whole time. And if anybody went back at her, the rest of the audience was like, why are you being mean to our friend? So there was no winning.
Yeah, no.
It was just it was a shit night. So I came back the next night, and I was hyped up to do a good job, and I'm 5 minutes into my set, and it's going pretty good. And then I did this joke where it's an old joke. I say that I'm scared of men with neck tattoos, and I'm so scared of men with neck tattoos that if I was out with my girlfriend and a man with a neck tattoo slapped her in the face in front of me, I would just break up with her. That was the joke.
Yep.
And this woman thought that I was advocating domestic violence, and she started screaming out at me like, next, like X Factor, like get off.
Yeah.
And she was sitting in the same seat as the woman from the previous night. So I said like, this is crazy that this must be the heckling seat. Like, there's obviously a horrible mole magnet underneath the seat. And
so you didn't go light.
I didn't go light. And the boyfriend came up and took a swing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. And did he connect?
I blocked, and I think he grazed my forearm, and then they took him out of the room, and I finished the set.
Wow.
Got to finish.
Show
must go on.
Do your time.
Got to do my time. That's right.
That's insane. Speaking of doing time, we are right at that time now.
We are.
Mate, before we go, this will probably be out either next Monday or the Monday after.
Okay.
So give your Melbourne show a plug, whatever else you want to plug.
Yep. We'll do.
Now.
Okay. Yep. So my show is called Heart of Darkness. It's about all the bad things I've done in my life. And I'm at the Melbourne Comedy Festival, 9 shows only. From the 12th to the 22nd of April, Sydney Comedy Festival for the entire first week of May at the Factory Theatre, Perth Comedy Festival. I don't know if that interests people. A week later,
That's a fun one.
that's it.
Perth.
Yeah, very fun. And then a couple of independent dates like Gold Coast and stuff in June.
Where can people find out all that stuff?
Instagram is probably best.
Yep.
At anthony.locash, LOCASH, or my website anthonylocascio.me, because .com was taken by that fucking tap dancer in New Jersey, Anthony Locascio.
He's very good.
He's
though.
very good. Yeah, I know.
Mate, thanks very much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It's
Cheers.
awesome. Thank you.